Thousands of migrants from South America are making their way through Panama's Darien Gap.
The real culprit here is our own policies.
Last year, at least 520,000 migrants crossed it to come here.
It takes days to walk through the Darien Gap, 100 kilometers of jungle between Colombia and Panama.
A growing number of people are making the long trek from China to cross the border.
This jungle that connects Panama with Colombia, with South America, has become one of the most highly transited migration corridors.
Border crisis escalates. A rugged expanse of untamed wilderness, where the dense jungle seems to stretch on forever. This is the Darien Gap, a notorious stretch along the Pan-American Highway that's left unfinished, like an incomplete puzzle piece connecting Colombia to Panama. But here's the kicker. Instead of deterring travelers, it's become a bustling thoroughfare for thousands of migrants every single day. Despite its reputation as one of the most challenging terrains on the planet, the Darien Gap has become the gateway for a diverse array of migrants hailing from South America, the Middle East, and beyond. It's like a melting pot of cultures and stories, all converging in this wild, unforgiving landscape.
Thousands of migrants from South America are making their way through Panama's Darien Gap.
Panama and Colombia are appealing for more help in managing the number of migrants crossing through the Darien Gap.
50 countries traveled through the deadly region known as the Darien Gap in Panama.
Whole economy in some of the villages in Colombia close to the Darien Gap, which offer accommodation, transportation, guides.
Last year, at least 520,000 migrants crossed it to come here.
Now let's talk logistics. Picture yourself as one of these migrants. You've made the journey to Ecuador, where you land without needing a pesky visa. From there, it's a hop, skip, and a jump to Colombia, where the real adventure begins. You're faced with the daunting prospect of crossing the Darien Gap, but hey, where there's a will, there's a way. Except here's the thing, there's no highway to speak of. Instead, you're navigating dense jungles, treacherous terrain, and all manner of obstacles nature throws your way. It's like a real-life survival challenge with no safety nets or guidebooks to help you along the way. But why, you might ask, are so many people willing to brave this perilous journey? Well, it all comes down to hope. Hope for a better life, away from the hardships and struggles they've left behind. Whether it's fleeting economic collapse, political unrest, or simply seeking new opportunities, these migrants are driven by a powerful desire for something more. And yet, as they press forward, they're faced with the harsh reality of an unfinished highway, a gap in the road that symbolizes the challenges they'll encounter on their journey. But still, they push on, fueled by resilience and determination, each step bringing them closer to their dreams. Global migration routes. Imagine a bustling airport in Ecuador, where travelers from all corners of the globe converge, united by a common goal: migration. Thanks to lax visa requirements, Ecuador has become the launching pad for thousands of migrants seeking a new beginning. From South America to the Middle East and beyond, people flock to Ecuador, eager to embark on the journey of a lifetime. But Ecuador is just the first step in this global migration route. The real adventure begins when migrants set their sights on Panama, their gateway to a better future. And how do they reach Panama, you ask? Well, that's where the infamous Darien Gap comes into play.
A record 400,000 people may cross the Darien Gap this year as they attempt to reach U.S. borders.
One of the most dangerous routes is through the Darien Gap, which links Panama and Colombia.
In the Darien Gap is some place that one does not go without careful preparation.
This year alone, 300,000 desperate people have tried to cross it in a search of a better life.
It takes days to walk through the Darien Gap, 100 kilometers of jungle between Colombia and Panama.
This untamed stretch of jungle, where the Pan-American Highway remains unbuilt, serves as both a barrier and a beacon for migrants. Despite its challenges, the Darien Gap has become a symbol of hope for those seeking refuge from economic hardship, political turmoil, and persecution. But here's the twist. These migrants aren't making the journey alone. They're supported by a network of international organizations who provide assistance every step of the way. From logistical support to humanitarian aid, these organizations play a crucial role in facilitating migration through Panama. And it's not just about reaching Panama, it's about what comes next. For many migrants, Panama is just a pit stop on their journey to destinations further afield, like the US or Canada. But without the support of these international organizations, their dreams of a better life would remain just that, dreams. Border control inefficiencies. Let's talk about Panama's border control, or should we say, the lack thereof. Despite regulations in place, Panamanian authorities are grappling with a flood of migrants, and it's becoming more of a headache than they bargained for. On one side of the border, you've got Panamanian officials trying to keep things in check, but on the other side, you've got a steady stream of migrants pouring in like water through a leaky faucet. The result? Encampments and settlements popping up left and right, turning Panama's border into a makeshift refugee camp. But it's not just about the migrants, it's about what their presence says about Panama's ability to enforce its own regulations. I mean, if they can't keep a lid on things at the border, what does that say about their authority?
The real culprit here is our own policies.
There are more people coming this way because of a change in U.S. policy. What about arriving at the actual U.S. border?
And if they survive it, which not all of them do, they can then get relatively directly all the way through Central America into the U.S.
The other side of the Gulf of Urabá, many of them have spent up to a month in a bottleneck of sorts in Necoclí, Colombia.
Enter Central America, make their way across that part of the continent, and then come here to the U.S.
And then there's the elephant in the room, external forces. Who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, and why are they so keen on letting the migrants in? Is it a case of humanitarian aid gone awry, or is there something more sinister at play? These are the questions that keep people up at night, wondering just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Because let's face it, when it comes to border control, Panama's got a lot on its plate, and it's not going to be an easy fix. So as the encampments grow and the settlements spread, one thing's for sure: Panama's border control woes are far from over, and until they can get a handle on things, it's anyone's guess what the future holds for this small but mighty nation. Chinese migration anomaly. Let's dive into the curious case of Chinese migration that's got everyone scratching their heads. There's a group of predominantly young Chinese men making their way through the Darien Gap, separate from the throngs of other migrants. It's like a scene straight out of a spy thriller, and it's got people talking. Now, we're all for diversity, but when a specific group stands out like a sore thumb, you can't help but wonder what's really going on. Are they just looking for a fresh start like everyone else? Or is there something more going on behind the scenes?
A growing number of people are making the long trek from China to cross the border.
Flood of migrants arriving from one of America's most powerful adversaries, and that is Beijing.
Big increase in Chinese migrants coming through the U.S. border down in Mexico.
The largest group of Chinese nationals crossing our border illegally that I've ever seen.
Shows us why the Chinese migrants are willing to risk everything for a chance to make it to America.
The plot thickens when you consider the motives and facilitation of this Chinese migration. I mean, who's pulling the strings here, and why the cloak and dagger approach? It's enough to make you feel like you're in the middle of a real-life espionage saga. But here's where things get really interesting: speculation about potential ulterior motives. Could these migrants be part of a larger scheme, orchestrated by powers beyond our imagination? It's the stuff of conspiracy theories, but in a world where anything is possible, you can't rule anything out. Security concerns rise. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room: security concerns. With an uncontrolled influx of migrants pouring through the Darien Gap, it's no surprise that alarm bells are ringing louder than ever. I mean, think about it. When you've got thousands of people crossing your borders unchecked, it's like leaving the front door wide open and hoping for the best. Except in this case, the stakes are much higher than a missing TV or a stolen package.
A massive spike in the number of migrants headed to America from around the world.
Stories over the past several years about the movement of hundreds of thousands, millions of people illegally into the United States.
Yeah, these are indeed historic record numbers. By the end of the year, it could easily be more than 500,000 people.
This jungle that connects Panama with Colombia, with South America, has become one of the most highly transited migration corridors.
U.S. officials aren't trying to shut down the dangerous route. Instead, they're making changes.
We're talking about national security here. With migrants coming from all corners of the globe, who's to say what their intentions really are? Sure, most of them are probably just looking for a better life, but what about the ones with more sinister motives? That's where things get tricky. How do you vet thousands of migrants, sift through the crowd, and separate the good apples from the bad? It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and let us tell you, it's not easy. And then there's the question of regional stability. When you've got so many people moving around, it's like throwing a wrench into the gears of an already fragile ecosystem. Countries are left scrambling to keep up, and the consequences could be catastrophic if we're not careful. So as the uncontrolled influx of migrants continues, it's clear that we've got a lot of work to do. From beefing up security measures to finding more effective ways to vet migrants, the road ahead won't be easy, but if we're serious about protecting our borders and ensuring the safety of our citizens, it's a challenge we'll have to face head-on. Evolutionary theory. We're about to delve into the fascinating world of gender imbalance and its implications for China's demographic landscape. In China, there's a bit of a gender gap going on, and it's not exactly a 50-50 split. We're talking about excess males, outnumbering females by quite a margin. Now, you might be wondering how on earth this happened, and that's where evolutionary theory comes into play. In a perfect world, the ratio of males to females should be pretty balanced. It's like a delicate dance between the genders, ensuring harmony and stability in society. But when you throw a wrench into the works, like China's infamous one-child policy, things start to get a little wonky.
Local officials would issue massive fines for having more children than you were allowed.
The county of Rudong has been emptied of its children quicker than anywhere else in China.
The one-child policy meant that an entire generation is filled with many, many only children.
There have been changes. The number of exceptions to the rule have increased.
Now, we're not saying the one-child policy is solely to blame, but let's just say it didn't exactly help matters. With families restricted to having only one child, there's a lot of pressure to have a son, especially in traditional Chinese culture where male heirs are prized. But here's where things get really interesting: the long-term effects on gender ratios and their potential impact on societal stability. When you've got a surplus of males roaming around, it's like a ticking time explosive waiting to go off. And it's not just about finding a mate, it's about the ripple effects that come with a skewed gender ratio, like increased competition for resources, higher rates of crime and violence, and even potential social unrest. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.